Hola clase, today's lesson is the present tense of regular AR verbs. We are going to see the conjugations in the present tense of AR verbs and the uses of the present tense. First, let's review some basic grammar concepts. So we have seen verbs. In order to talk about activities, you need to use verbs. Verbs express actions or states of being. So the infinitive form of a verb. In English and Spanish, the infinitive is the base form of the verb. In English, the infinitive is preceded by the word to be, to study, to live, to smile. The infinitive in Spanish is one word form and can be recognized by its endings, AR, ER, and IR. For example, estudiar, comer, escribir. So first we're going to see the conjugations. To form the present tense of Spanish verbs ending in AR, you have to follow these steps. First, drop the infinitive ending, so the AR ending. For example, in the verb hablar. Then, to that verb stem, add the endings that correspond to the different subject pronouns in the present tense. Yo hablo, nosotros hablamos, tú hablas, vosotros habláis, usted habla, ustedes hablan, él, ella habla, ellos, ellas hablan. So as you can see here, in orange is the verb stem, and in black is the endings that correspond to the different subject pronouns in the present tense for AR ending verbs. You can also see this chart here. So if you see in this chart, we're using the verb estudiar, and it's conjugated in the present tense in the different subject pronouns. Okay, let's practice. For the first practice, you will have to identify the subjects in the following sentences. You can get a clue of it by the conjugations of the verbs. The verbs, I put them in bold, so here are the verbs. Preparo, escucho, canto, esperan. So you have to write the subject in the blank space after the sentence. Here we have the answers, so if you want to check your answers, just pause the video and see them. Okay, we have another practice. This practice is a paragraph, and you have to conjugate the verbs in the parentheses to agree with the subject. So you have to identify the subjects in order to conjugate the verb, the AR verb, according to the subject. Well, you have here the answers. If you want to check it, just remember you have to pause the video. So let's continue. Uses of the present tense. Use the present tense to express what people do in general sense. So this is like English. When you say, estudio español, I study Spanish, right? You can also use the present tense to talk about what people are doing in a particular instance. Mi mejor amiga y yo estudiamos español este semestre. So, my best friend and I study Spanish this semester. So, in a particular set of time, this semester, we are studying Spanish, español. So, you can see here that in Spanish you use the present, estudiamos. Whereas in English, you can use also the present progressive. We are studying. But also you can say, mi mejor amiga yo, my best friend and I study Spanish this semester. The third use is to describe what people do habitually. So, estudian español todos los días. You study Spanish every day. So, to express whatever you do every day, you can use the present tense. Notice, in English, you can use the simple present. For example, I work. The present progressive, I am working. Or the emphatic present, I do the work. In Spanish, the simple present tense can be used in all these three cases. So this includes what I already said in number 2. When in English you are using the present progressive to describe a present action, in Spanish you use the simple present. The use number 4 is to express what people intend to do in the future. So notice that when you use the present tense to express a future action, you have to use a word that expresses time. Mañana, tomorrow, la próxima semana, next week. el próximo mes, next month, el próximo año, next year, en 2, 3, 4 años, in 2, 3, 4 years. The use of the present to express a future action also happens in English. So for example, mañana estudio con Laura. I study with Laura tomorrow. La próxima semana espero pasar el examen. I hope to pass the exam next week. En 2 años viajamos a España. We travel to Spain in 2 years. So notice, you can use the present tense to express future actions that you know they are going to happen, that they are already planned. But you have to add a word that expresses when that future action is going to happen. So you have to add the word tomorrow, the next week. That is the word that is actually showing when it's going to happen. Notice that in the above sentences in Spanish, the subject pronouns are omitted, whereas in English they are not. Why are they omitted in Spanish? So here you can see, mañana estudio con Laura. It doesn't say mañana yo estudio con Laura, whereas in English the subject pronouns are always used. La próxima semana espero pasar el examen. It doesn't say la próxima semana yo espero pasar el examen, whereas in English the subject pronouns are always expressed, I hope. En 2 años viajamos a España. It doesn't say nosotros here. But in English, the subject pronoun is always expressed. So why are the subject pronouns omitted in Spanish? Well, because the verb endings, for example, estudio, espero, viajamos, indicate already who the subject is. So it is not necessary to state it. Whereas in English, you can say, we travel, you travel, they travel. So it's necessary to use the subject pronouns in English to show who the subject is. But in Spanish, it's already implied in the verb conjugation. In Spanish, the subject pronouns are only used explicitly if they are used for emphasis, clarification, or contrast. So, for example, ¿quién desea trabajar hoy? Yo deseo trabajar hoy. So this is for emphasis. You're saying I want to work today. Yo. Ellos bailan y ellas cantan. Ella enseña español y él enseña francés, for contrast. So, for example, saying, ¿quién desea trabajar hoy? Yo deseo trabajar hoy is not the same as saying, deseo trabajar hoy. Deseo trabajar hoy is I want to work today. But when you put the subject pronoun explicitly, you're saying, it's me, I do want to work today, right? So you're using for emphasis, I. Number 2, ellos bailan y ellas cantan. So you're putting the subject pronouns for clarification because it's not the same as saying bailan y cantan. They are dancing and they are singing. So you're making a distinction, a clarification between who is dancing and who is singing. Whereas if you would use bailan y cantan, probably it's understood that you're talking about the same people. In number 3, ella enseña español y él enseña francés. You're using it for a contrast. It's not the same as saying enseña español y enseña francés. Because in this one you're saying she teaches Spanish and he teaches French. But in this one, in the second one, enseña español y enseña francés, this one could refer to the same subject, but it would be a weird construction because if it would be for the same subject, so he teaches Spanish and French, you don't need to put the verb again, right? So because you're doing a contrast between she does this and he does the other thing, you need to explicitly put the subject pronouns. Okay, we're gonna do a practice now. You have to conjugate the verb in the parentheses according to the subject. I'm giving you the subject in some of them in the parentheses, in the cases where you don't need the subject pronouns. Here you can check your answers, to check your answers, just pause the video. Thank you.